Jung discovered a psychological sign so dangerous. It appeared in 73% of his most destructive patients. These individuals didn't appear violent. They didn't scream. They smiled. They were helpful. They seemed normal. But beneath that charm was a pattern Jung would come to fear more than any other. It's not just a red flag, it's a psychological detonation switch. Today, I'll show you how to recognize it because this sign doesn't show up through obvious aggression. It's subtle. And that's what makes it deadly. The sign? It begins when someone projects their own darkness, their shadow, onto others with total conviction, not doubt, not suspicion, absolute certainty. Carl Jung said, "The things we hate most in others are often the parts we deny in ourselves." This is the heart of shadow projection, the unconscious act of placing your own darkness onto someone else. But here's what makes it dangerous. The person projecting believes their perception is truth. They don't question it. They don't reflect. They feel righteous. And that's the trap. Jung found that people under this spell build distortion fields around themselves, realities where they are always the hero and others are always the threat. No matter how calm, kind, or rational you are, you become the enemy inside their story. And the more unconscious they are, the more dangerous their certainty becomes. How can you tell if someone is unconsciously projecting their shadow? Jung identified 5 psychological red flags. 1. They accuse others with intense emotion. Even minor disagreements trigger intense moral outrage, as if something far deeper is being activated. 2. They cannot admit they're wrong. Even in the face of evidence, they double down, because their ego depends on being the good one. 3. They gossip or smear others covertly. They use whispers, insinuations, and social manipulation to isolate their target without ever appearing directly aggressive. 4. Their perception is rigid. They're convinced their version of events is absolute. There's no room for complexity, nuance, or other viewpoints. 5. They see patterns that justify persecution. They connect random dots into a story that makes you look like the villain, and themselves the victim or hero. These aren't personality quirks. They're signs of unconscious shadow possession. You might think you're immune, that you're self-aware enough to resist, but shadow projection isn't just personal, it's socially contagious. Jung warned that when one person projects with conviction, others unconsciously join the distortion to avoid conflict. They mirror the projection, not because they're cruel, but because their psyche is wired for tribe, not truth. You become the villain in a story you didn't write, acted out by people who never questioned the script. You'll feel confused, like reality is slipping, like you're being punished for something you didn't do. This is called psychological field possession, and Jung believed it's one of the most dangerous forces in human behavior. At first you question them, their tone, their inconsistencies, their attacks. But slowly, you begin to question yourself. Maybe you are too sensitive. Maybe you did say the wrong thing. Maybe there's something wrong with you. This is how shadow projection becomes internalized. Jung believed this was the most tragic outcome, when the projected image gets absorbed by the target's psyche and replaces their sense of self. They lose clarity. Their self-trust fades. They become paralyzed trying to fix a problem that was never theirs. This is psychic gaslighting, and it can take years to reverse. Because the real damage isn't what was said to you, it's what you started believing about yourself. Jung didn't just diagnose this pattern, he created a method to escape it. It starts with radical self-awareness. Instead of reacting to the projection, you observe it, name it, and refuse to carry it. Step 2. Build psychological boundaries. You must learn the difference between what is yours and what belongs to them. Step 3. Return the projection, not with blame, but with clarity. You say, "I hear your story, but I no longer carry it for you." This is individuation, becoming whole by reclaiming your truth from others' distortions. It doesn't make you cold, it makes you clear. And clarity is the only cure for confusion. When you stop carrying projections, you don't just escape others' distortions. You reclaim your mind. You remember who you were before they labeled you, before they made you their villain, before their story overwrote your truth. This is the turning point Jung called psychic sovereignty. You no longer react, you respond. You no longer internalize, you recognize. And from this place, you gain a strange new power. You can now see others' projections as clearly as your own. You become immune to manipulation, not because you fight harder, but because you're no longer available for unconscious recruitment. This is not detachment, it's clarity with presence. The most dangerous psychological sign is not rage, it's not manipulation, it's unconscious certainty. When someone sees only light in themselves and only darkness in others, they become possessed by their unintegrated shadow. But you have a choice to become the witness instead of the victim, to face your own darkness before it harms others, to reclaim your truth before someone else writes your story. This is the real spiritual path, not perfection, but integration. If this resonated with you, you're not alone. You're part of a quiet awakening happening across the world. Subscribe to this channel for weekly videos on Jungian depth psychology, shadow work, and psychological self-mastery. And remember, the shadow isn't evil.